325 million. That's how many elevator rides happen every single day. More than every flight, every train, every subway ride on Earth combined. And there's a very good chance the last time you rode one, you didn't even think about it. This is vertical transport, and quietly, margin for margin, it out-earns the airline industry without ever leaving the ground. Tokyo, New York, Dubai, Shanghai, all different buildings, all running the same business model. In this video, we're going inside the vertical transport business, the pricing trick no airline could ever copy, the company you've never heard of that just made a $14 billion bet to become the biggest player on Earth, and the number that proves an elevator can out-earn an airliner without ever taking off. By the end of this, you will never look at an elevator button the same way again.
I will now cut the cable. Have no fear, ladies and gentlemen, for this mechanism guarantees your safety.
It started in 1854. New York City. A mechanic named Elisha Otis stepped onto a platform, had it hoisted into the air in front of a crowd, and ordered the only rope holding it up to be cut. The platform dropped a few inches, then stopped. A safety brake caught it. He'd just proven the elevator wouldn't kill you. And in doing that, he didn't just invent a machine. He made the skyscraper possible. By the 1930s, elevators were lifting people past 100 floors. By the 2000s, entire cities were being redesigned around them. Today, the global elevator and escalator industry moves close to $120 billion a year. But here's the part almost nobody realizes. The machine itself is barely where the money is. What actually makes this industry rich is something far more calculated. Let me ask you something. When a company sells you an elevator, where do you think they make their money? The obvious answer is the sale, the machine itself. The real answer is almost the opposite. Look at Otis, the world's largest elevator company. In 2024, selling brand new elevators earned them a profit margin of just 6.1%, barely more than break-even once you account for steel, copper, and installation labor. But the division that maintains, inspects, and repairs elevators already in buildings, a 24.6% operating margin, almost 4 times higher. So Otis does something that looks almost irrational. It practically gives away the elevator. Because the elevator was never the product. The 20-year maintenance contract is. Elevators are legally required to be inspected and serviced on a fixed schedule for as long as the building stands. And the company that installed the elevator, with its proprietary parts, its proprietary software, its own trained technicians, is almost always the easiest, safest choice to keep servicing it. But the model only becomes truly staggering once you see it at scale. And the numbers get bigger than most airlines ever will. Otis alone has an installed base of roughly 22.5 million elevators worldwide. Of those, about 2.4 million are under an active Otis maintenance contract, a portfolio that's grown for 3 straight years. Service now makes up around 60% of Otis's revenue, but it generates more than 90% of its profit. One arm of the business barely breaks even. The other arm carries the entire company. So now you know the model. But here's the number that makes this story genuinely absurd, because almost nobody outside the industry has ever compared it directly. Now compare that to the businesses everyone assumes are the real transportation giants. In 2024, the global airline industry, every carrier on Earth combined, flew a record number of passengers on record revenue of roughly $1 trillion. Their net profit margin was 3.3%. Airlines call that a good year. Industry body IATA put it bluntly. The average airline keeps around $6 for every passenger it flies. Barely enough for a coffee. Now look at rail. Amtrak, the United States' national passenger railway, has never once turned a profit. Not in over 50 years of operation. In 2024 alone, it lost $1.8 billion. And that's after billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidy. On some long-distance routes, taxpayers cover several $100s of loss for every single passenger who boards. It isn't just America. Nearly every national passenger railway on Earth depends on public money to survive. Germany alone put close to $18 billion into rail funding in a single year. Not profit, funding just to keep it running. Now put Otis's service division next to both of them. A 24.6% margin, roughly 7 times the entire global airline industry's average profitability, and nowhere near a subsidy. Otis isn't the outlier either. Finland's KONE runs at an adjusted operating margin north of 11%. Switzerland's Schindler is close behind, just under 11%. Every major player in this industry is out-earning airlines, and doing it without a single subsidy, without a single plane, a single mile of track, or a single gallon of jet fuel.
They don't move you across the world. They just move you up it. And they get paid more to do it.
Now you've seen the margins, but here's who's actually collecting them. And almost nobody outside the industry can name a single one of these companies.
You might think these elevators are all different, but they belong to a surprisingly small group of companies.
You've heard of Boeing. You've heard of Airbus. You've probably even heard of Amtrak. Have you heard of Otis, KONE, Schindler, TK Elevator? But you've almost certainly ridden their product today. Together, these 4 companies build and maintain the overwhelming majority of the elevators and escalators on Earth. Over half the market in Europe, and a similar share across the United States. This alone, $14.3 billion in revenue in 2024. The largest elevator company on the planet, with offices in over 1,400 locations. KONE, out of Finland, close to 11 billion euros in revenue, famous for machine room-less systems that are hard for anyone else to service. Schindler, out of Switzerland, over 11 billion Swiss francs in revenue, known for its destination dispatch technology and high-rises. TK Elevator, formerly part of ThyssenKrupp, a broad legacy footprint across the world's major cities. 4 companies, almost every building you've ever entered, and you couldn't pick a single one of them out of a lineup. And their real weapon isn't the elevator car, It's the contract. It's the maintenance agreement. Once one of these companies installs the equipment, switching to a competitor means retraining technicians, sourcing proprietary parts, and taking on liability most building owners simply won't risk. You don't own the product. You don't own the building. You own the servicing relationship the building is legally required to keep renewing. And once you own that, you own a recurring income stream for the life of the structure. But here's where the story takes a turn nobody outside the industry saw coming. Because right now, as you watch this, the entire hierarchy of this business is being rewritten.
KONE in Finland and TK Elevator in Germany. Two separate worlds soon to be united in a monumental merger.
For decades, Otis has been the undisputed largest elevator company on Earth. Then, in 2025, Finland's KONE made a decision that would flip the entire industry hierarchy. They agreed to merge with TK Elevator. KONE is paying roughly 5 billion euros in cash, handing TK Elevator's owners 270 million new shares, over a third of the combined company, and taking on more than 9 billion euros of TK Elevator's debt in the process. The deal is targeted to close later in 2026, pending regulatory approval. If it goes through, the combined company overtakes Otis to become the largest elevator business on the planet. Schindler, the third of the Big Four, has already signaled it may try to block the deal through competition regulators. The most profitable, least talked about industry in transportation is now in the middle of the largest ownership shakeup in its history, and almost nobody outside of it has noticed. And there's a second force reshaping the business at the same time. China now accounts for roughly 60% of every new elevator installed on Earth. The West's Big Four are still building there, but as China's own manufacturers scale up, the new equipment side of the business the West once dominated is slipping away, which makes the service contracts, the maintenance relationships already locked into buildings across Europe and North America, even more valuable than before. The machine Elisha Otis proved wouldn't fall in front of a crowd in 1854 is now the center of a multi-billion-dollar fight over who gets to own the world's vertical infrastructure. And it's only getting more contested from here. So next time you step into an elevator, look for the inspection certificate. Notice the brand on the control panel. Notice there's no advertising trying to sell you anything. That's because you were never the customer. The building was. It's there because a man cut a rope in front of a crowd in 1854 to prove he wouldn't fall, and quietly created one of the highest margin transportation businesses on Earth. No planes, no tracks, no subsidies, just a door that opens and a contract that never really ends. If this changed how you see the buildings around you, there's another hidden business quietly running the same playbook. Something you've walked past, paid into, or used without ever asking who actually owns it. You'll never guess it. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. That story is next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.